What's going on, Lions fans? Welcome to the Pride of Detroit YouTube channel. I'm Miko, joined by my guy Morgan here. And Morgan, we are here to do another video related to the NFL draft. I feel like even though the draft is now, 2 weeks away, there's still a buzz in the city. Um, I get to like every once in a while, whether I'm going to like physical therapy or just hanging out with people, like I still overhear people just like talking about how awesome it was to have the draft here and just how well Detroit just represented, by being able to host that event this past April? Yeah, it's past April.
Yeah, I think I've said it both like on the YouTube channel and then over at prideofdetroit.com, but the city did so much better than like I even could have imagined, to be honest with you. Like I was just really impressed that everything was executed well, and I'm glad it went off really well, and like we set the record and all that. And it was such a cool moment when Terrion got drafted. Like, yeah, just cool. Like we were at Ford Field, just man. It was a great night. Great couple nights, right?
I was gonna say the city did what they were like what they had to do as far as like again representing and showing up with crazy numbers. The team did what they were supposed to do. Brad Holmes and company once again went out there and crushed it and picked some really good players, some diamonds in the rough by far. There's a couple of those where it's like, hey, it might be a little bit of a wait and see approach with some of these players, but all in all, a draft that you start going out, and if you're into draft grades and things of that nature, you read what a lot of these writers and analysts are saying about the Lions. Like they're consistently near the top, as far as receiving an A or an A plus or whatever the case may be. And yeah, you get a couple people in there that are probably doubting it a bit because they're not very well versed in some of these players, but that's just kind of comes with evaluating the draft.
Yeah, and I like, I get that people have to talk about the draft, and like the grading part's really tough to me just because like, everyone crapped on the Lions draft last year when they took Jameer and Jack Campbell and Laporta, and then finally BB. People like the Brian Branch pick, but yeah, people were like, this is an all-time bad draft class. And then a couple of those players helped carry the Lions within minutes of a Super Bowl appearance. So it's tough to grade them. I get that we have to do it, but I do think like you gotta love this if you're a Lions fan. I know we've talked about it, but like people would have been like, oh, what's the Lions' weakness like right now? What could they address that could really solidify your belief in them? And most Lions fans probably would have been cornerback, edge, and one
Wide
of those
receiver, maybe.
Yeah, maybe
I was gonna
wide
say
receiver. Yeah, but it's not a lot. But yeah, Brad just hammered home at a long-term need, and you got to be happy.
Yeah. And so, fortunately for us, we're not going to be doing draft grades today, but we are going to be talking about these rookies and doing a little bit of projection, not necessarily saying what these players are going to do on the field, but just in our own opinion, right? Who are we at least excited to see get on the field? And maybe these players get on the field early, maybe they get on the field late, maybe they don't get on the field at all, Morgan, but we at least will probably at the minimum get to see them in camp. So I'm going to hand it off to you first. Who was the first player that you were kind of excited to see, whether it's, again, playing on Sundays or even just seeing them in camp?
So I'm going to go. Obviously, I was stoked that the Lions got Terrion. Like we were there, like I said, we were there in person at Ford Field for the little season ticket holder party, and a lot of us didn't think getting Terrion was an attainable thing prior to the draft, and then it worked out. So we were all thrilled. But to get Inish Rakestraw where they got him was also crazy to me because I really, really liked Inish Rakestraw. If you watch a decent amount of college football, you've probably seen a lot of him just because Mizzou's on TV a lot of the time and they're playing a lot of the tough SEC opponents. And
Yeah.
this man holds up, right? So he's, digging into it a little more. He wasn't like a highly recruited guy. Went to Mizzou because they were the first team to offer him, if I'm not mistaken. And just he can really compete. Like Aaron Glenn, the coaching staff, Dan Campbell, they're gonna really like this kid because Terry on too, but Rakestraw's kind of got that, demeanor to him where he's gonna take it personal, like almost like a bit of a Michael Jordan mindset. He's gonna take anything you do he just you being there is he's going to take personally. Like, oh, you think you get by me? Like, you think you can beat me?
Yeah.
And like that's the type of competitor he is. And I really think even if we're penciling in, and we shouldn't pencil it in, it's going to be an open competition. Terry on at the outside, along with Carlton Davis III. I do think there's a world where we've talked about it a bunch, and I'm sure we're going to all the way through the summer. But Brian Branch moving to safety, that's going to open up that nickel spot for some competition. And in my opinion, you having Rakestraw in there at the nickel would be pretty tantalizing, right, Miko?
Yeah, that's where it would get interesting for me in terms of seeing Rakestraw on the field is how much do the Lions play him at nickel? And I think, like you said, training camp will be the first OTAs and training camp will be our first little sneak peek into that because we saw that fairly early with Brian Branch once things kind of started getting rolling was it wasn't just the fact like yes, he was getting reps, speaking specifically about BB. Yeah, he was getting reps at safety, but he was playing a lot at nickel starting out early on, and they really just wanted to kind of get him on the field. So if Rakestraw Jr. just starts doing the same thing where he's impressing so much, where they're just like, hey, we know he can play outside, but like actually he's shining a ton here at nickel. One thing we know about Aaron Glenn and this defense and Dan Campbell as well is they're going to put out their best players to play. And so if that means kicking, BB to safety so Rakestraw can get on the field because they like Terry on at corner and obviously like CD3 is locking down the other corner spot, that's a great problem to have. Now it opens up the question of like who's getting bumped, to the bench. But one thing that like to your point, Morgan, we'll probably get into this more as we start breaking down the offseason. I expect the secondary to rotate a ton, but Rick Straw Jr. is definitely somebody that I'll have my eyes on once, camp kicks off. And again, seeing if he's able to get on the field at all once the season actually kicks off.
Agreed. That'll be another like that could be a good video one day because I do think there's a world where the Lions defense and Aaron Glenn almost operates it like it's a basketball game to an extent, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
matchup based, it's personnel based. So like some weeks Rakestraw might play. It just it could be very multiple. And I know I hate to use that word because that was a favorite word of a not so great head coach here, but it gives the Lions options on a week to week basis if you have guys like Rakestraw, Terry on, Carlton Davis III, Amik,
Mm-hmm.
Emmanuel Mosley, if he comes back and is any form of his previous self, like that's another like darn good football player to be honest with you. So I love this, man, because it's cool to I love that Brad Holmes does this. He's like, "Yep, that was a weakness. I'm going to go ahead and make it not a weakness."
Yeah.
you know,
And that's why, like again, you're going with Rakestraw, and I'm going to take the low hanging fruit with Terry on because he is
got
like
to
as the first pick that the Lions made in the first round. He is the guy that I want to see, and I made this pretty clear when we did our Terry on Arnold. Really, was he my top corner that I technically wanted for the Lions? Not really, but I'm not going to argue with all the people that were just like, hey, he is either CB1 or CB2 of this class, and when you turn on the tape, it's very evident. And he is somebody again, like you said, it's not safe to pencil in anybody, but like if there's going to be an actual open battle, it would not surprise me if by the end of it, Terrion Arnold is your CB2, because I think he does have all the skill sets that are required to play the style of football that Aaron Glenn wants to play. He's going to play man really well. He's going to play off really well. He's capable of creating turnovers and has the necessary athleticism to at least challenge a lot of these wide receivers, in camp. And that's going to be the thing that he's just going to have to do. And I think the more important thing for him to come out on top is can he be consistent? And if he can, seeing him line up on Sundays could be truly a treat, Morgan. And I think it could be something where, he's going to take his lumps early, but it's going to be interesting to see like how he battles and how he's able to weather the NFL game versus what he was able to go through at the college game.
for sure. And like it's obviously he played in the SEC, right? So like it's the best conference in America. I mean, I know people are going to yell at me, Big Ten in the comments. okay, guys, just
We,
come on,
we all know the truth, guys. It's
come
it's like 2
on.
to 3 teams in the Big 10, and then
A lot of fluff, okay? In
and
the
then and then
SEC, most
Iowa and then Iowa barely scoring touchdowns. So
yeah,
like
like come
we
on,
know what
man.
it is.
With respect to Sam Laporta and Jack Campbell, sorry guys, I know you're watching for sure. But yeah, man, I do think it'd be really cool if Terrion could come out of the gates and be like a dude, because
Yeah.
Aaron Glenn would be licking his chops, man. I know I keep bringing him up, but he's got to be excited, because if you do have guys like, if you have them operating at a high level on the outside, right? It brings you up. Like, say you get into a lot of, like, the Lions' goal is to stop you on early downs, first and second down. They're going to get you into a lot of like second and longs, third and longs. That's their goal. And then they can get into some of these exotic looks where they can send 6 or 7 guys. And that makes it, they were doing it last year when they had Cam Sutton and Kendall Vildor at corner, because it was almost like a necessity. Like, it was the way they had to live on third down, because they weren't really able to cover a lot of people on the back end for long periods of time when they weren't getting home with like a 4-man rush, right? So it would open up the Pandora's box of wonders or horrors, depending on how you look at it, for Aaron Glenn, because you'd be able to, on those third and longs, be like, all right, Terrion, CE3, lock up here. We're going cover 0 or cover 1, which means you either have no deep safety or 1 deep safety, and
Yeah.
we're sending the kitchen sink at Caleb Williams, who's going to be, his head's going to be spinning. So that gets me excited, Miko, for sure.
Yeah, and I think like again, there's a really strong possibility that you get Tyrion on the field, and I think there's so much that this defense could benefit from again if a young player like him is able to hit the ground running. I mean, like you said, last year you had Cam Sutton and Kendall Vildor out there. I just feel like if you have a player like Terrion Arnold on the field, that reception that Brandon Ayuk makes in the NFC championship game just doesn't happen. I think you have a better cornerback there, or at least a better playmaker out on the field that could potentially, help swing things the other way. So that's my first pick of a rookie that I want to see. I'm gonna go with my second pick as well, though, Morgan. And this one is a little interesting for me because I'll be honest, this one has taken me a little bit of time of warming up to. Not that I don't see the value in picking him, but it's moved from like, okay, I understand the picks to like, I really want to see this guy on the field, and that's Sione Vaki. I know he's primarily going to play special teams. I know he is. He's probably going to be out there, on punt return as far as, or as punt off as far as like as a gunner and stuff like that. Maybe, yeah, he's not going to return punts because that's Khalif's job. But maybe you can get him back there on kickoff returns. Vaki is somebody that becomes very, very interesting to me, mainly because the production that he was able to have at the college ranks was from a time when he wasn't even dedicating a lot of his time to playing running back. So I'm so curious to see what that looks like when he gets onto an NFL roster with a guy like Scotty Montgomery, and they're going to be like, "No, we're going to dedicate you to running back." It may be a little early, but I think Craig Reynolds might have a little bit of trouble on his hands.
Man, I've been thinking about this a lot, and this is where it's going to get interesting in the offseason, and we'll have a lot of good discussions about it. But you look at the Lions running back room, and it's getting crowded quickly, because you have
Mm-hmm.
Jameer, obviously, David Montgomery, Craig Reynolds, Vaki now, Zonovan Knight, Bam Knight, who I really like. Like, he's a good running back, like, and he's physical, and he can follow like his blocks and like get he's a good player. He's a plus player in my opinion. So yeah, Miko, it's going to be like, I'm interested to see how they construct the roster,
Mm-hmm.
because it's going to get tight down there quickly. But to your point, yeah, I think Vaki immediately is going to come in and be a core special teamer. So meaning he's going to be on punt return, kickoff, and kick return. And I think there's I don't know why, but I think it's going to happen. I'm calling my shot here just because it's really not really a big thing, but I do think Vaki's going to end up being the kick returner for the Lions, because with the new rules, it's going to be like, if you have a playmaker back there, that could be a heck of a weapon, man, because I saw this stat. John Ledyard, shout out John Ledyard on Twitter, said, I think the craziest stat I saw all draft season is Sione Vaki had 42 college carries and forced 20 missed tackles on those carries per PFF. So that's an insane rate. So like you get a guy like that with these new rules that the NFL is implementing, and he breaks a couple tackles, like shoot, man, we could be like the Lions could be setting up good field position a lot, and this
Right, starting at the
that would make
40.
this offense like you're almost guaranteed going to get 3. Hopefully, we can get a kicker. Let me boom, 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 boom. I don't know why I said that. I'm sorry.
Jake Bates is happening, man. Just
Okay,
continue to believe
please,
it.
please, Jake. We're gonna talk it into existence, man. I hope that happens because he's nice, certified. I haven't been to see him at Ford Field yet, but maybe we should go. Let's just go scout Jake Bates.
I'm with it.
Get some food. But yeah, I think Vaki's a great pick, man, because yeah, I think he can make a big difference. And then, like you talked about with Scotty Montgomery, he's with a heck of a coach with a really damn good position, like good room, like good people to learn from. If you're new to running back, hey, here's David Montgomery, here's Jahmyr Gibbs, here's Craig Reynolds, who is a good player who's on his own. So yeah, good pick.
Yeah, I like I said, you called your shot early that like, Vaki's gonna be the kick returner. I'm gonna call my shot early, and I think you got a new RB3 in Sione Vaki. And that doesn't mean that like Craig doesn't make the team, because they currently don't have, what's bro's name? Fullback.
Oh, Kabenda.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't think
He's no longer on the roster. Yeah. And so, I mean, maybe the Lions are doing away with that traditional fullback position, and maybe they just use more tight ends or things like that, but they could still carry 4 running backs, because clearly Craig Reynolds has the makeup of the type of players that they want. But I look at Vaki, and man, like you said, he's going to play on every phase of special teams, which is something that Craig Reynolds can do, but I think Vaki's going to do it better. We saw Craig Reynolds as a kick returner. Nothing all that flashy. Vaki could give you a lift there. Not to mention, since he played safety, he's not going to be afraid to hit when it comes down to covering punts or covering kickoffs. So you got a big hitter on that side as well. So there's a lot to take from that. But
you could be a starting gunner too.
Yeah.
Good point. I didn't think about that before. He could be a starting gunner, which is really important, but go on.
Oh, no, I was just going to kick it back off to you, because I know you have another rookie that you're just as excited to see, as well.
Yeah, man. I like Mahogany. I really like Christian Mahogany. Like, I knew a little bit about him through the pre-draft process just because of some of his, like, people had talked about his tape. But I love that he put Dirtbag in his Twitter handle. I want to say he has an anime. One of his profile pictures anime, but I can't remember what off the top of my head. So yeah.
It's a movement, man. If you're not on the anime movement, just get on board. Try one out.
It's fun. Try it, man. They all love it. Like Jahmyr Gibbs has Dragon Ball Z as his header still. Like, yeah, everyone loves it. But yeah, I really like Mahogany, man. The Dirtbag thing is hilarious. He comes from Boston College, where they run a lot of like gap scheme running like style. So they're getting downhill. They're trying to wall off the defense, and like they're pulling guys, and yeah, he's that kind of player, and he's a masher, man. This is to an extent, I hate, people don't like to hear it, but to play offensive line, like to play it well, and to get to like to play Division I or even NFL, you have to have that. It's nastiness. It truly is. That's why it's so much fun to talk about and break down, because it's super technical, and it really like your technique and the way your feet are and your hand placement and everything matters so much, and it all has to be in unison. But it also just matters, like, do you want to beat the heck out of the person in front of you? Like, and he does. He definitely he does. And so I don't think he's not in an ideal world. Mahogany's not going to play much on offense, but I am excited to see him in training camp, and it would be cool if he ends up being like the Lions, emergency interior offensive lineman. Like, whether if someone misses a game at left guard or right guard, they feel good enough to plug him in at right guard, maybe, right?
Yeah, I'm excited to see this one, because I feel like almost across the board has been recognized as like one of the better steals of the draft, right? And I'm so curious to see if that's really the case. If this could be Brian Branch, but just like on a greater scale of like, again, not necessarily pushing for a starting spot because you have Graham and Zeitler there. So like if he kicks one of those guys out, like I'm not gonna be able to contain myself, Morgan. Like if that's what
Oh
we're
yeah,
talking
that's
about, that type of
crazy.
player,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to contain myself. But to your point, if he is at least a high quality player that just again helps raise the floor of this offensive line, that's a win. And you start to look at, last season the Lions did incur a couple injuries. Frank, have battled a couple things. Graham, I think, missed a game as well, or actually no, Graham didn't miss a game. But like things can
Yeah.
happen across that offensive line where guys have to get shuffled around. And I think the thing that Mahogany could bring to this group, that even though you have Awasika and Sorsdal, is that Mahogany has been playing guard his entire career at college football. So this is not a project. This is not teaching someone how to play guard. This is maybe cleaning up some things because he clearly fell in the draft for a reason. Whether they're football related or not, we won't know. But to your point, I would love to see him in camp to see, listen, this is somebody that a lot of, scouts and draft analysts thought highly of, who went in the 6th round. Is it because his talent is 6th round talent, or is there some other stuff going on? I would really like to see that once camp kicks off.
Yeah, and I think we'll get a good picture pretty quickly once he's going to have to take reps against Aline McNeil and Josh Pascal and Aiden Hutchinson and these guys who are dudes in the league already. So yeah, I think that'll be a good one, and I think it really hinges on his ability to be a good pass protector right away, because we know he can. He's proficient, like I talked about. Boston College runs a lot of gap scheme, and he's used to that. He's going to be familiar when the
Mm-hmm.
Lions do that. So I do think his ramp up time, or however you want to phrase it, is going to be shorter than that of like you talked about. Obviously, Manu's way shorter than Giovanni Manu's, but even Colby, because Colby's switching to the other side of the center and he's moving from tackle to guard. So there's a lot of different stuff there. But yeah, great point, Miko. If you with Mahogany, it's much more plug and play if he has to play, which hopefully he doesn't.
Yeah. So I think those are some good rookies. And again, that's not to take away from, Makai Wingo, which, man, Makai Wingo's fun to watch. Like his highlight reels are really fun to watch. I don't know if how hard or easy it's going to be for him to crack, a spot with, as far as getting playing time. But I think like the rest of these guys at least have a little bit of a place. Like you mentioned Manu. I expect Manu to get the Broderick Martin treatment, right?
Yep.
Like we should not see him unless he greatly outplays Dan Skipper and can play that
Right.
move tackle role. Then maybe you might
Mm-hmm.
see some Manu.
Nope. Yeah, I mean that would be nice, man. Because no offense to Dan Skipper, I'm just tired of seeing a 6'10" man run across the formation.
Yeah, let's see a
You
six
know?
seven man do it instead.
Yeah. And he looks like the mountain from Game of Thrones, man. Like seeing Manu in
Dude,
that
he's a
picture,
freak. He is a
I was like,
freak.
oh my god, yeah. Like it didn't really like. I was like, what am I looking at? Like, and you see big dudes all the time. Like Panay Sewell plays on our football team, like. But yeah, different 6'8", 6'7", whatever he is, 350, and he's peeled. Like he's not a lot of fat.
No, I was gonna say, isn't like Decker 6'7"? And it don't look the same, bro.
No.
That's a different
Decker's a big
6'7",
dude.
right?
Yeah, like it's crazy. Like on some Mailata stuff from Philly, Jordan Mailata. Like it's a very similar situation. A lot of people are making that comp. Where at least Giovanni's played football. Mailata was a straight rugby player. So like that was way
Yeah,
different. Crazy.
man. Maybe Manu should have made our list. Because like now I'm just picturing like him and Panay clearing out the right side.
Oh my god. It'd be like like the
That'd just be
elephant.
so fun.
Yeah, man. Elephants. Like just elephants clearing a path.
And like JMO's like got an end around. Oh man, all right, we gotta wrap this
Yep.
video.
Yep, absolutely. Getting crazy in
but
here.
but guys, those are our picks. Terrion Arnold, Sione Baki for me. Morgan's got Ennis Rakestraw Jr. and Christian Mahogany. Which of the rookies are you most excited to see play, whether again it's in camp or when the regular season kicks off? Let us know in the comment section below. Also, A similar article was like this was written on the Pride of Detroit YouTube channel. Jeremy actually wrote that article. So if you want to know who Jeremy highlighted as the player that he's most excited to see, head over to prideofdetroit.com so you can get a look at that and get to hear from Jeremy exactly why he's excited to see his player play once the season kicks off. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. We are always trying to upload new content over here on the Pride of Detroit YouTube channel. So if you continue to hit that subscribe button, share this channel with other people, and just hit that notification bell, you will be notified anytime we upload new articles over here. But with all that said, I'm Meko. He's Morgan. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch, and we'll be sure to catch you guys in the next one.